So we see that Canadians are adapting frugal habits, like switching brands, looking for coupons, discounts when they are buying products. If a product is too expensive, they even change their diet, find substitutes of the proteins and whatnot.
It's early morning at the Ontario Food Terminal. There's hundreds of farmers and sellers here with fresh fruits and vegetables, and thousands of grocery store owners, restaurant owners, and others are looking for the best of it.
Imagine standing in the middle of a massive warehouse at 4 in the morning, surrounded by the crisp scent of fresh apples, earthy potatoes, and vibrant leafy greens. Around you, hundreds of local farmers are setting up their displays, while thousands of independent grocery store owners, restaurant chefs, and wholesale buyers are aggressively negotiating for the absolute best produce of the day. This isn't a chaotic stock exchange floor in downtown Toronto, but it functions exactly like one. It is the Ontario Food Terminal, a legendary facility that has quietly hummed along for more than 70 years, moving an astronomical 2 billion pounds of fresh fruits and vegetables every single year. For decades, this single hub has been the invisible backbone of Ontario's food distribution. But right now, something massive is changing. The Canadian federal government is looking at this exact model and making a mind-blowing multi-billion-dollar bet. They are launching an unprecedented $3 billion national food security strategy, and the core of this entire plan relies on building a massive, interconnected network of food terminals right across the country. If you have noticed your monthly grocery bills skyrocketing, or if you have wondered why a country with as much vast, fertile farmland as Canada is struggling to keep food affordable, the reasons behind this massive investment will completely change how you look at your grocery cart. To understand why Canada is suddenly dumping billions into food terminals, we first have to uncover a deeply unsettling paradox that sits at the very heart of the country's economy. Canada is globally recognized as an agricultural superpower. The country exports massive amounts of wheat, grain, beef, and pulses to feed millions of people around the world. Yet, despite being one of the world's largest agricultural exporters, Canada imports nearly 90% of its fresh fruit and nuts, and more than 70% of its most common vegetables. Think about that for a second. A nation with millions of acres of farmland is almost entirely dependent on foreign countries to supply the fresh produce that families eat every single day. This extreme vulnerability is exactly why Canadian grocery prices have exploded by nearly 35% since 2019. Today, the average Canadian family is forced to shell out approximately $10,000 a year just on groceries, which breaks down to over $800 every single month. When you are relying on global supply chains for nearly everything fresh, any international disruption, fuel price spike, or border issue hits your wallet instantly. But the dependence on foreign fields is only half the battle. The real reason Canadians are paying extortionate prices at checkout comes down to a shocking level of corporate monopoly at home. Right now, a staggering 75% of all Canadian grocery stores are completely controlled by just 5 dominant retail giants. Because these 5 massive corporations control the vast majority of the market, they also completely dominate the supply chains. If you are an independent, family-owned neighborhood grocer, you don't have the leverage to negotiate directly with massive global suppliers. Instead, you are frequently forced to buy your inventory through your very own multi-billion-dollar corporate competitors, paying heavily marked-up prices. Those inflated costs are then passed directly on to you, the consumer. On the flip side, local Canadian farmers are trapped too. Because a handful of corporate giants control the market, farmers don't have enough wholesale buyers competing for their crops. They are often forced to accept razor-thin margins or watch their produce go to waste. This is exactly where the brilliance of the food terminal comes into play, and why the government is treating it like an economic weapon to break this corporate chokehold. A food terminal acts as an open, competitive, and entirely transparent wholesale marketplace. It completely bypasses the corporate-dominated supply chains. By establishing a massive neutral ground where local farmers, independent distributors, boutique restaurants, and small retailers can meet and trade directly, it strips away the power of the Big Five monopolies. To turn this vision into a national reality, the government has unveiled a $1 billion initiative called the Food Link Fund. This fund is designed to massively expand existing terminals, kickstart the construction of 2 brand new mega food terminals by the end of 2028, and build up to 40 new commercial food hubs in communities across Canada. The ultimate goal is to increase the number of independent grocers buying directly from these competitive hubs by 15% within 4 years, while simultaneously boosting local food sales from small and mid-sized producers by 25%. By creating a marketplace where hundreds of buyers compete for a farmer's produce, prices naturally stabilize, local farms thrive, and independent grocers can finally offer affordable alternatives to the corporate giants. However, fixing the marketplace is useless if Canada keeps exporting its raw wealth only to buy it back at a premium. This brings us to the next jaw-dropping revelation in Canada's new strategy: the massive domestic processing gap. Prime Minister Mark Carney pointed out a mind-boggling example involving Canada's trade relations with Thailand. Currently, Canada ships massive quantities of raw wheat, soybeans, and peas overseas. Shockingly, about 70% of what Canada sends to Thailand is processed over there, packaged into finished food products, and then re-exported right back into global markets, including back into Canadian grocery stores. Canada is literally spending hundreds of millions of dollars to ship raw agricultural ingredients halfway across the planet, paying foreign factories to do the processing, and then paying a massive premium to import the finished products back home. It is an economic tragedy that drains money from Canadian communities. To permanently plug this financial drain, the National Food Security Strategy is injecting $1.25 billion directly into building up domestic processing infrastructure. This includes a $1 billion fund managed through Farm Credit Canada to help local businesses scale up their ability to grow, produce, and process food entirely within Canadian borders. Additionally, a $150 million food security fund will help small and medium-sized local businesses upgrade critical equipment like automated packaging systems and cold storage facilities. Another $100 million fund will focus entirely on collaborative food innovation, ensuring that every single part of a harvested crop is utilized effectively rather than being discarded or shipped away raw. The goal here is simple but revolutionary. Keep Canadian food in Canada, create thousands of local manufacturing jobs, and stop paying foreign middlemen to process Canadian crops. Of course, critics will quickly point out that Canada has a massive environmental limitation: the winter. The outdoor growing season is simply too short to sustain a year-round supply of fresh produce, making heavy reliance on imports the historic default for most of the calendar year. To shatter this environmental barrier, the strategy earmarks $750 million specifically for high-tech commercial greenhouses and advanced hydroponic facilities. This massive injection of capital will allow Canadian producers to cultivate fresh fruits and vegetables 12 months a year, completely insulated from the harsh northern winters. Within this fund, a dedicated $100 million slice is targeted specifically at northern and rural communities. This will fund localized, small-scale indoor farming initiatives, completely eliminating the need for remote towns to rely on incredibly expensive, fuel-heavy supply shipments that have to travel thousands of kilometers just to deliver basic, often wilted greens. To ensure these billions of dollars actually translate into rapid change, the government is also tackling the crippling bureaucratic bottlenecks that have plagued Canadian agriculture for years. Right now, local farmers and innovative food producers can wait years just to get regulatory approvals for safe new fertilizers, pest control tools, and advanced seed varieties. This systemic drag puts Canadian farmers at a massive disadvantage compared to international competitors who get access to modern agricultural tools instantly. The new strategy legally commits to completely clearing out the massive backlogs within the Canadian Food Inspection Agency by the end of 2026, forcing faster, more predictable decisions on agricultural tools. This regulatory overhaul costs almost nothing in taxpayer capital, but its impact on everyday farm productivity will be massive. Alongside cutting red tape, the strategy is putting real teeth into market fairness by heavily arming the Competition Bureau to investigate and dismantle predatory corporate behavior in the grocery sector. Most incredibly, the government is moving to legally ban a highly controversial corporate practice known as surveillance pricing. If you have ever felt like the prices on certain store shelves or online grocery apps seem to mysteriously fluctuate based on your personal shopping habits, you aren't crazy. Major retailers have been increasingly utilizing sophisticated consumer data, tracking purchase histories and behavioral patterns, to maximize their profit margins by charging individual consumers higher targeted rates. By outright banning surveillance pricing, the government is stripping away a major tool that corporate monopolies use to secretly gouge everyday citizens. When you step back and look at the entire picture, this $3 billion food strategy isn't just about agriculture. It is a fundamental shift in how Canada defines its national sovereignty. True national independence relies on a country's absolute ability to feed itself, fuel itself, and defend itself. Right now, Canada is realizing that it cannot truly be sovereign if it remains dangerously dependent on foreign supply chains for the very food on its citizens' plates. This massive food terminal expansion is part of a much larger $135 billion national transition shifting Canada from a state of vulnerable global reliance to absolute domestic resilience. Food security is the piece of that puzzle that hits home the fastest because it impacts the monthly budget of every single household. By breaking corporate monopolies, building competitive food terminals, keeping processing domestic, and scaling year-round greenhouse technology, Canada is building a completely self-reliant food future. If you want to stay ahead of the curve on the massive economic shifts, global trade transitions, and mega projects shaping our world, make sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and smash the like button on this video. Let us know in the comments below if you think these national food terminals will finally bring down your monthly grocery bills, and share this video with someone who needs to see the real story behind changing food prices. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next video.